Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Hope you're doing great and having a lovely day. If you're new here, very big welcome to you. Thank you for coming or for clicking and joining us. And if you're a returning viewer, appreciate you having you back again. My name is Anna. I'm a maker based in Seattle, Washington. And today I'm going to talk you through all things knitting from the past month. So projects that I finished in December, projects that I'm working on, and then some projects that I'm looking forward to in the new year in January and beyond, as well as some things that I picked up for those projects and for other projects. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and I hope you're ready because it will probably be a long one. This is my second time filming this video. I filmed it a few days ago, went to edit it, and the sound didn't record. So hopefully you can hear me okay. And let's just do this. So like most knitters and makers of any kind, I'm sure you can sympathize or relate in that December is a very busy month for knitting because I did a lot of gift knitting this month, pretty much exclusively gift knitting. So I have quite a few things to talk to you about, but I don't have them physically with me to show you. So I will just place pictures and videos in here as well as I can for you to see the projects that I'm talking about as I talk about them. But okay, so I ended up doing 4 gift knits in December. The first is a cardigan that I made for my niece. Here's a very poor picture of it. I'm really bad at remembering to take pictures of my projects, but here it is. It's the Ingrid Cardigan by Golden Fleece yarn or fiber or spinnery. It's a yarn company, and it's just a little cardigan with some eyelet lace flower details on it, and twisted rib detailing at the cuffs and hem. I made this with a 50/50 mohair wool yarn that I got from Colourmart. It's like a fingering to DK weight yarn, and I really liked the yarn. It bloomed very nicely. It was super easy to work with. The pattern, on the other hand, was not my favorite. The pattern is not originally written in English, I'm pretty sure, because it seemed like there were some translation issues, and the pattern, like the size grading, was also not great. The pictures in the pattern, I think, are for the smallest size, and I knit the largest size, which was the 12-month size. So I think the grading was a little bit off on that. Like I said, I knit the 12-month size, and I had also previously in November knit a sweater for my other niece who is 2 years old, and when I finished the cardigan it was the same size as the 2 to 3 year old size that I knit for my older niece. So pattern was a little off on grading, but I mean, I knit it in the 12-month size even though my niece is, I think, 8 months now, because I wanted her to be able to wear it now and then maybe again next winter. So I mean, not ideal, but it may last her a little bit longer because it's a bigger size. Beyond that, there were just some stitch count things that were off that kind of messed with the pattern and the way it lay on the garment a little bit, but it turned out cute and I'm happy with it. I did not have time to put buttons on it, so it's just kind of a buttonless cardigan right now. I gave it to my sister-in-law already, so she can put buttons on it if she wants, but there's no buttons on it currently. That is the Ingrid Cardigan. It's a free pattern. Like I said, if you're making like I think the smallest size is 3 to 6 months, it would probably go super quickly, and the pattern grading should be fine. But as you go up in the sizes, just your mileage may vary. So yeah, that was my first finished object. One of many projects that I was knitting flat recently. I'm very happy to not be knitting anything flat at the moment because I'm very tired of knitting flat. So yes, I finished the cardigan for my niece and gave it to her, and then I decided the first week of December that I was going to make 2 more gift knits that I hadn't already been planning on. So I was planning on making this cardigan for my niece and making a pair of socks for my dad. But then last minute, I decided to make a shawl for my mother-in-law and a hat for my father-in-law. So the shawl that I made for my mother-in-law is called the Nymph Chalet. And I'll put a picture of the pattern here. It's a really pretty, kind of just smaller sized lace and stockinette shawl pattern from a magazine. I found it browsing on Ravelry, and it was published in a British knitting magazine, and I was able to find a copy of a digital copy of the magazine online. So I was able to find the pattern and it knit up pretty quickly. I knitted in this yarn, which is a 100% alpaca yarn, 2-ply, like sport weight, that my mother-in-law actually bought for me a couple Christmases ago, and she bought me 2 skeins of it. I used 1 skein of it and then wasn't really sure what to do with the other skein. So then I decided to use it for her, like a gift that keeps on giving kind of thing. And it's this rainbow colored yarn that she got at a local alpaca farm near where she lives in Texas. It's super soft and very colorful. So I ended up knitting it in this, and the shawl was an adventure, not only because it was knit flat, but because I'd never read a chart flat before. I like reading charts. I find it much easier than reading written instructions, but I had not done a chart flat before, so I got through like a whole lace repeat before I realized that like when you read a chart flat, you read right to left on the right side rows and left to right on the wrong side rows. And I had just been reading right to left every time because that's how you do it in the round. So I had to rip back and do it again, but it turned out good, and it turned out well in the long run. The lace is really pretty. I'll put like a video in here that's like a close-up kind of the lace pattern. It's really pretty. It has these twisted stitches and yarn overs, and it was my first big lace project that wasn't just little eyelets like in my niece's cardigan. So it turned out really good. I had fun knitting it. It knit up pretty quickly. And I also did the little picot bind off around the edge, which took forever, but was a really pretty touch. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And as you can see from the pictures, it's not this color anymore. Because this is kind of like a rainbow yarn. I feel like all of the colors were kind of competing against the texture in the lace and making it hard to see the textures in the lace. So once I finished the shawl and cast everything off, I dyed it with just some blue. I think it's the royal blue color of Rit dye that you can just buy at the craft store. And it turned into this like blue-gray color, and you can kind of still see the speckles of the multicolor in the yarn, but it just has a more uniform tone, and so the lace pattern stands out a little bit more against that more uniform color than it did with all of the multicolors. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. My mother-in-law really liked it, and yeah, it turned out really nicely, and I would make it again. It's a good gift project because it's like it's enough size to like wrap, but not like a huge giant shawl. So I think it only took me like a week to do, and it was a fun project to work on. Good learning experience on flat charts. So yeah, then I knit a hat for my father-in-law. It's the classic cuffed hat pattern by Pearl Soho. And I knit it in this is Patons classic wool in the color Marsh, I believe. It's like a greeny, browny, mossy, marshy color. I don't know how else to describe it. It's 100% wool, worsted, weight. I'm not sure that they sell this color anymore, but it's the color Marsh. I got it secondhand. And I was watching a video that Stacy from Stress Knits Yarn put out the other day, and she had knit a bunch of these hats, and she's like, I'd never known anyone to have like problem sizing with these hats. Like, I feel like they run really big, which I thought was very funny because I had knit like 3/4 of this hat and then tried it on and it was too small, and I was knitting the largest adult size. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so I was knitting the largest size. I had to rip it back because it was too small. I ended up going up a full needle size on both the ribbing and the body of the hat. And then I also cast on 10 extra stitches to the circumference. And that helped a little bit with the fit. It's still a little bit tight. I think it's tight because I did color work in it, which I'll talk about in a second, but which kind of tightened everything up. But it fits. My father-in-law also really likes it. But the colorwork motif that you see on here is called a lauburu, and it is a Basque symbol. My father-in-law is Basque. His parents moved to America from Spain in the 30s or 40s to herd sheep. So I wanted to give him a hat that was like not just a hand knit hat, which is already nice, but that had like a little something special on it. So I made this colorwork motif of the Lauburu and knit it on the hat. I think I did 4 repeats of the chart on the hat, and I made the chart myself, which was also kind of fun. I tried first to use a couple online chart making tools, like Chartminder is one that I tried, where you just upload a picture and it makes a chart, but I always had trouble with that website. I feel like it doesn't quite map the way that I wanted it to. So in the end, I downloaded the picture, just like a black and white picture of the symbol, onto like a drawing app that I have on my iPad. And then I overlaid a like grid pattern on top of that, and then colored in the squares to make the chart. And that's how I ended up with my chart. I think it's 20 by 20. And it looks pretty good. It's a little blocky. Like anytime you do curves in a chart, it ends up looking a little bit blocky. And I think if I was doing this symbol again, maybe on something that just had a little bit more surface area to work with, like a sweater or something, I would probably refine the chart a little bit, and make it more like 25 or 26 stitches just to make the curves look a little bit more elegant. But it turned out nice. And if anyone is interested in this chart, I'm happy to publish it for free on Ravelry. Just if anyone else wants to knit a basque motif onto something, I'm happy to publish the colorwork chart if there's interest in that. So if you are interested, let me know down below, and I'm happy to share that with you. It's very simple, but I'm happy with how it turned out. So that was my Lauburu hat, my classic cuffed hat from Pearl Soho with a little colorwork motif on it. And then my last Christmas gift item was a pair of socks that I made for my dad, which were like a sprint, because by the time I'd finished all my other gift knits, it was December 20th. And I had 5 days to make a pair of socks for my dad, and I will spoil it and say that I did not quite meet the deadline. I cast on the first sock, I think on the 20th, and cast it off on the 23rd, and then or the 24th maybe even. I think I cast it off on the 23rd, and then cast on the second sock that day and finished it on the 26th. I finished it on the 26th. So each sock took me like 3.5 days, which is pretty quick for a pair of socks, I feel like, especially because I was making up the pattern as I went. This sock was a trial and error because I knew I wanted to make my dad a pair of socks from like mid-October. I decided I was going to do it for him. And I had tried a couple of patterns and like made some progress on them, but they weren't right and they didn't fit and blah, blah, blah. So by the time I got around to making the sock for him, I still hadn't really found a pattern that I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, I'll just make it up. So it's a 2x2 rib, cuff, and then the stitch pattern goes down the leg, heel flap and gusset, stitch pattern on the top of the foot, and then a wedge toe. And I've never seen anyone else use this stitch pattern before. I'm sure I'm not the first person to use it, but I call it like a broken moss stitch pattern. And I'm really happy with how the socks turned out. I knit it in this gray, I think it's 100% wool. I don't think it's a superwash, but it's like a fingering to a sport weights. And I used 2.25 millimeter needles, so it made a really nice dense fabric. So I think even though they're 100% wool, they should wear just fine. There shouldn't be any issues with that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the socks turned out, and I'm toying with publishing the pattern if people are interested. I've written up the pattern for the socks in my dad's size, which is like a US men's 10, so I think it's like a 42 or a 43 European size, and I haven't graded it. But if people are interested in the pattern, I am more than happy to grade it for other sizes and publish it as a pattern on Ravelry. So if you're interested in this, I know they're kind of similar to the Hermione everyday socks, but they are not the same. So if you're interested, if you would like to either test or purchase a pattern for these socks, let me know in the comments down below. And if people seem interested, I'll call for testers and put the pattern out. So let me know what you think. It'll be kind of fun and exciting to do my first pattern release. But I'm not going to go to all the work if I don't feel like people are going to use it. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. But even if I don't release it, I might make a pair just for myself because I like the way that they look and the way that they fit. So that is that on that. That's all my gift knits. Quite a few for December. And then I did manage to finish 2 things for myself in December. Well, one of them I finished on January 1st, but I have 2 finished objects to show you, both of which you have seen before. The one that I finished first is my Sunday morning shawl from Espace Tricot. It is very large and very cozy. It's just a simple triangle shawl. It is kind of stripes of stockinette and twisted rib bands, and then there's a row of baubles and then a large twisted rib band at the bottom. It's a free pattern from Espace Tricot, and it was actually kind of much faster of a knit than I was expecting. I knit this up in probably like 3 weeks, a month maybe. I think I showed it to you in my last video, so it was about a month. But had I not been doing the gift knits, I think I could have knitted it up quite a lot faster. It is a DK weight pattern. No, maybe it's a worsted. I don't know. I think it's a worsted weight. I used the Bucilla tapestry wool, which I don't have here to show you, but it's a discontinued yarn. It's a vintage yarn. They don't sell anymore, but I used the color 90, and it's kind of this like rosy beige color. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. I will say this was a good humility project for me because I have trouble with rowing out. And if you're not familiar with what that is, you can kind of see it. You can see it actually really well in this section where it looks like kind of striped in here. And that is because when I knit flat, my knit stitches and my purl stitches are not the same tension. My purl stitches are a little bit bigger, like looser, longer, and they end up being a little bit longer than my knit stitches. So you get these kind of like guttering or rowing out effect. And I find it really annoying, and I've had this issue a lot recently, and I tried to change the way that I purl to see if that helped. And it has helped a little bit. I purl differently now than I did a couple months ago. And I knit continental, and I thought this was a continental only problem because of the way that you wrap the yarn. With English style, I figured it would be the same whether or not you were knitting and purling. But I was watching Jonathan's Days, I was watching Jonathan Day, whose podcast is called Jonathan's Days. Really great. If you have not checked it out, I would recommend. But he had knit a piece like partially flat, partially in the round, and he knits English style, and he also experienced this. So it's not just a me thing, it's something that happens to everyone, no matter what style you use. So I'm glad to know that it's a common problem, but I find it really annoying. So because I knit with interchangeable needles, I mitigated this problem, and you can kind of see in the bottom rounds, the tension is a lot neater, especially right in here. This round, the tension is pretty good. And that is because so this is knit on a 4.5 millimeter needle. So for the knit rounds, I knit with a 4.5 millimeter needle. And then on the purl rounds, I actually used half a size down. So I used a 4 millimeter needle. So I just had 2 different sized needles on my interchangeable cord. And that really helped with my tension issues. So I think I'm just gonna have to accept that if I don't want rowing out, I'm gonna have to do that from now on, because I, for the life of me, cannot manage to get my tension right. And I find that the larger the needle size and the thicker the yarn, the worse that it is. So if I'm doing like a bulky weight project, it's much worse. Whereas if I'm doing like a project like this, the first couple rows, you can see I did not do that, like these 2 bands, and it's okay. So I think smaller rows and smaller gauge, the difference is not as noticeable. But anyway, that's my Sunday morning shawl. It's huge and cozy and very pretty, and it's pretty simple. So I think if you're a beginner, this would be a good project to learn some new skills. If you want to work on twisted rib or increases, this is basically like a raglan increase down the center, and then yarn over increases on the edge. So yeah, I would really recommend this. It's huge. It's very cozy. Like I could fold it in half and still wear it as a shawl. I will say one more thing about this is that I did not use as much yarn as I thought I was going to. The pattern I think calls for about 800 yards of yarn, and I had 800 yards of this Bucilla tapestry wool that I got secondhand, and I thought I was going to need all of it, but I actually ended up using just under 600 yards. I think I had like, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 yards left of the last skein that I used. So I think I ended up using about 590 or so yards for this project. So less yarn than I was expecting. So I have 200 yards of this left, and I think I'm going to use it for like a worsted weight sock project. Some little house socks or just some squishier socks, I mean, I could use it for a hat. There's just only so much you can do with 200 yards, like basically 100 grams of worsted weight yarn. So that is my shawl. I'm very happy with it. It's lovely and warm and cozy. This is not the softest wool ever, but because this is more of like an outerwear garment, it's not that worried about it. So yeah, there's my Sunday morning shawl. And then my final finished object, which I'm very pleased to finally have finished because I've been working on this for ages. This is my Seasons cardigan by Ozetta. Her name is Haley Smedley, but it's Ozetta Handmade, I think is her like business name. And this is a lovely half fisherman's rib cardigan that I made out of Patons classic wool merino, which is not a yarn that they sell anymore. They don't sell the merino version of this yarn, but they do sell the classic wool worsted, which is not quite as soft as this merino, which is like some of the softest yarn I've ever felt. But the classic wool worsted is a great workhorse yarn, and I highly recommend it. So this is the classic wool merino. It's discontinued. This is the natural mix color, which is number 223, I believe, if you do happen to have any of it lying around. Yes, it's a half fisherman's rib cardigan with raglan increases. This is the first cardigan I've ever knit for myself. And I guess the second cardigan I've knit because I finished that one for my niece, but the first cardigan I ever started. And it turned out really nicely. I'm really happy with it. It took forever because of the half fisherman's rib. It just takes twice as long as it needs to. But it's very soft and very squishy. I will say that this yarn is going to pill pretty badly. Like it's already, I don't think you can really tell, but like it's pretty fuzzy and it's going to pill because it's so soft. But that doesn't really bother me. I'll just pick the pills off. I'd rather have a very soft sweater that pills than like, I mean, I'm actually fine with rustic wool, but I'm not really bothered by pilling. Even though this is brand new, I think it's just like a lot of the fluff coming out of the yarn. So I think it may stop pilling after a few wears or washes, but yeah, this is my cardigan. The buttons I chose, I got from my mom actually. They are some vintage little buttons that she had. I like them a lot. They're like a brown plastic and they have this really pretty kind of embossing on the edge. I have 4 of those. Gosh. And yeah, I knit the third size. I think it's the medium because I wanted it to be a little bit oversized. And it turned out great. It's very warm. I will say if you do knit this cardigan, that the sleeve decreases were like the rate wasn't fast enough. So the first, if you can kind of see the first 2 rows of this decreases I did to the pattern, and then I realized if I kept going at that rate, my sleeves were going to be like past my hands. So I had to speed up the rate of decreases quite a lot, and I'm glad I did because it's like the perfect length now. It's like to here on my hands, which is great. And I don't think I'm the only one that had that problem. I was looking through some Ravelry projects, and I think other people also had to adjust the sleeve decrease rate. So just fair warning, I would have done it like these 2 decreases are at a different rate than this decrease, which is at a different rate than the rest of these decreases. So if I was to knit this again, I would just recalculate my decrease rate to be consistent. But it still looks great. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I will say I was extremely fortunate because I had 500 gram skeins and the pattern called for 600 grams. And I was like, it'll be fine. Like, should be fine. But it wasn't fine because after knitting the yoke and 1 sleeve, that had already used up basically 3 whole skeins, and I had a whole nother sleeve and the body to go. And so I was like, this could be an issue. So, and because this yarn is discontinued, it's not the easiest to get a hold of. So I was looking on eBay and Etsy and Ravelry, and I was gonna be able to buy one on there. It was fine, but it was gonna cost like $10 with shipping for one skein. And the other 5 skeins I had bought for like $8 because they were on like liquidation from a yarn store that was going out of business. So I was just umming and ahhing. I was like, I'll just wait and see how much I have left and buy it when I need it. But then I was in Monterey with my mom over Christmas break, and we went into this little yarn store in Monterey called Slow Fiber. And lo and behold, they had it. This is an amazing store, and I'm glad I don't live by it, because if I did, I would be spending all my money there. But it's a yarn store and crafting store in Monterey, and they sell new yarns. They sell Garthnor, which is why I wanted to go in, because I wanted to look at that. I hadn't like seen it in real life before, and I wanted to feel it because of Jonathan's days. I've been talking about Garthnor. But they also, well, the lady who owns the store also sells recycled yarn. So she'll like buy out people's stashes that they don't want anymore. She'll like buy the de-stashes and then resell it in her store. And she had like 6 skeins of this, which was perfect because this is the exact color that I needed. It's not the same dye lot, but I wasn't that worried about it because it's like a natural color. I figured it was close enough that it would be fine. And I ended up only having to use it on the rib at the bottom. And I don't think you can really tell that the dye lots are different. So I got very lucky, and just to be extra safe, I bought 2 skeins of this for $3 each at Slow Fiber, and I ended up only needing about half of one of them, so I still have about 1.5 skeins of this, which is great because it's super soft, and I can use it for like a hat or some house socks or something lovely. Or if someone else needs it for their project, I will probably post it on my Ravelry stash for sale. So if someone needs it for theirs, I can pass the good luck on. But anyway, it was like serendipitous that I found this because I ended up needing it. So that was very lucky. And I am very jealous of anyone who lives in Monterey or thereabouts and can go to Slow Fiber regularly, because there was so much beautiful stuff in that store. And she also has like fabric and sewing stuff and books, and I think she does classes and dye, and there was just like everything you could ever need in there. It was like my paradise. I was in there for like half an hour, and my dad and my husband were just like walking laps around the building waiting for me and my mom to be finished, but it was lovely. So anyway, that's my season's cardigan by Ozetta. I'm gonna put it on just because it's super warm and cozy. I love it. I'm very happy that it's done because I was working on this for a very long time. It was slow because of the half fisherman's rib, but it turned out great. So I'm happy to have that done. So that is all of my finished objects for today, and you will be surprised to hear that I actually only have one work in progress, because in December I finished all my gift knits, and then I had my shawl and this sweater, and I was like, I just want to finish everything that I have going and start the new year with nothing on my needles. And I almost got there. I finished this on January 1st. So I was very close, but now I have started a new whip, and I'm been so excited about this that I haven't want to cast anything else on. I mean, it's like only been 3 days, but this is my Badger in Bloom sweater that I'm so excited about. So this pattern it's by Anne Vencel, and this pattern came out in September maybe, and I saw it on Instagram, and I have been in love with it ever since, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I bought the yarn for it maybe in like November, and then now I have finally cast it on. So I am using Let Lopi for this project, which is Icelandic wool. It's like a worsted weight, and I'm using, this color is called Light Ash Heather, and then the darker contrast color that you see here is called Black Sheep Heather. And I'm almost finished with the yoke. I'm about to separate for sleeves. I literally cast this on January 1st, and it's January 4th today, and I've just like flown through it because it's so fun and so pretty. I'm doing the short rows right now actually, but this is what the yoke looks like. I love it so much. It's so beautiful. It's so lightweight, and it's going to be super warm and lovely. Also, I'm incredibly impressed by the quality of this pattern. This is the first time I'm knitting a pattern by Anne Vencel, and I will definitely be knitting more because I'm just like so impressed by the quality of the pattern. It's extremely well written. Everything is explained beautifully. Hold on, I have wool in my mouth. I hope I got it. Anyway, it's extremely well written. Everything is explained super well. I read through the whole pattern, which I don't normally do, which you should do, but I don't. But I read through the whole thing because it was just like, I was like, this is incredible. So highly recommend this pattern. It's so good. She explains all the techniques. She even explains in the chart. So when you're knitting color work, and the way that I knit color work for this project, which is, it's all the color work is 1 by 1. So it's super simple. But the way that I do it is I knit continental. So I hold the yarn in my left hand and I'm holding both of the strands over my one finger. And in order to make the pattern stand out, you should have one color be the dominant color in the pattern while you're knitting. And she even tells you which color should be the dominant color in which sections of the chart, which I've never seen before in a pattern, and I just think is brilliant, and it just guarantees such an excellent result. So I'm really happy with this pattern. I'm really excited about it. I'm about to separate for sleeves, and then I'm just gonna go, and I can't wait to have it done. I wanna have it done for my birthday, which is in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks from Thursday. So coming up very soon, and I want to have it done for then. So I think I will be able to, because it's going very quickly and it's on larger needles. The colorwork section's on a 6 mil, and then the body and everything, this stockinette sections are on a 5 mil. So it should go really fast. And I just love it. I love it so much. I really like the Let Lopey. It's so lightweight. It's very easy to work with. It's not soft. It is a rustic yarn, but I'm excited to see how it washes up and turns out beautifully. So very, very, very excited about that. So that's my only work in progress at the moment, but I do have a swatch for another project that I wanted to show you. I'm not the best at swatching. I don't enjoy it and I usually skip it, but for the sake of this project I have swatched, which is good because I swatched on the recommended needle size and my gauge was too tight, so I went up half a needle size, and it's still a little tight, but I'm gonna go with it. This is my swatch for the Honko Sweater by Sari Nordland. And these are the colors I chose. I showed them to you, I think in October or November's episode, but it's this periwinkle cashmere, this green cashmere, and then this white alpaca. And I'm not sure if I want to do the stripes this way with the white on the top and the green on the bottom, or if I want to do it this way with the green on the top and the white on the bottom. I can't decide. I think I'm leaning more towards this with the white on the top, but I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. I know this is not the most conventional color choice, but some of the projects on Ravelry and Instagram have really cool color choices and they inspired me. So I'm really into this periwinkle and green combination, and I think the white helps to balance it out. So that's my plan for this, that I will probably cast on once I finish the Badger in Bloom. So I'm very excited about that. I just think it's very pretty, and the fabric's gonna be so nice. It'll be so soft and drapey and cozy. So let me know which way you think the stripes look better. White on top or green on top. So yeah, that's a swatch for that project. And then the other project that I am about to start is it's called Sage Strings. It's a pattern from Drops. It's a slip over with cables on the front. And I'm gonna make it in this buttercream Luxe Craft yarn from Joann's. It's nothing fancy. I got this for Christmas from my sister-in-law. I asked her for it. So, but it's 100% wool roving yarn. It's decently soft. I wouldn't say that it's not as soft as the classic as this yarn, but it's not nearly as rustic as the Let Lopey. I think even if you had sensitive skin, you could wear this next to your skin because it's not really scratchy, but it's just not it's not cashmere, but it's soft still. And this is a worsted weight roving single ply yarn, and I'm going to make the Sage Strings slip over, but I'm going to modify the pattern quite heavily. The original pattern, sorry, I just have fiber everywhere. The original pattern is knit like a front panel, a back panel that gets seamed together, and then you pick up stitches for the neck and the armholes. But as I said, I don't want to knit flat anymore. I'm tired of it. So I'm going to modify the pattern to be knit mostly in the round. It's knit bottom up. So I'm going to knit in the round from the bottom up to the armholes, and then I'll separate for front and back and knit just like half of the thing flat, so I don't have to do the whole thing flat. So that's my plan, but I'm also gonna kind of adjust the dimensions of it a little bit. I want it to fit more like the petite knit holiday slipover, which is a pattern I have made and that I own, so I can kind of cross-reference. Because the original pattern is kind of long. I want it to be a little bit shorter. I want the armholes to be a little deeper, you know. So that's my plan. I'm using this yarn. I have 600 grams of it. 600 grams is, it's 115 yards or 105 meters per 100 grams. So I have about 700 yards of it. And yeah, I'm gonna start that very soon. I actually cast it on the other day. But because I'm modifying it, I had made some miscalculations, so I had to rip it back, and so I'm going to cast it back on again. So that is another project that I want to work on in the next couple of months so that I can have it for end of winter and spring here in Seattle. So those are my imminent plans. And then I have a couple other plans. My sweet, lovely mother forced me to pick out some yarn for Christmas from Pearl Soho, because she's like, I haven't bought you enough things for Christmas, you have to choose a yarn. So I had heard nothing but good things about the linen quill from Pearl Soho, so she got me 2 skeins of it. And I'm sure many of you have also heard all about linen quill from Pearl Soho, because everyone's been using it to knit the half and half triangles wrap by Pearl Soho. But I'm going to use it to make the Musso sweater by Espace Tricot. It's a free pattern, and the original pattern is knit with 2 strands of silk mohair, but I'm just gonna knit it in 1 strand of fingering weight yarn. So it's gonna be super lightweight, but warm, but light. So it'll be like a good spring, early summer piece for me, because it's not that warm here where I live, so you can wear sweaters in the summertime. But yeah, this is the Pearl Soho linen quill, and I chose the color Rosewood Pink. It's like this reddish, it's like a warm reddish pink, and it's very nice. It's 50% wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. So it has some good drape to it, which will make for a nice floaty sweater. And the linen doesn't pick up the dye the same as the wool and the alpaca, so it's kind of like heathery, you can see. So I think it'll just make a really pretty, drapey, soft, lightweight fabric. And I have 2 skeins of this, and they are 498 yards per 100 grams. So it should be more than enough to make that little lightweight Musso from Espace Tricot. So that is this. Thank you, Mom, for this generous gift. I'm really excited to work with it. I hope that I love it as much as everyone else seems to. And then I've got a couple more acquisitions to share with you. So at Slow Fiber, I was looking through the destash yarn that the owner was reselling, and I saw this skein and I could not leave it behind. Is this not the most beautiful skein of hand-dyed yarn you've ever seen? This is just the most beautiful hand-dyed skein I've ever seen, and I'm not a big hand-dyed person. I usually don't go for hand-dyed yarn because the variegation kind of scares me off, but I just couldn't leave this behind. So this is from Bumblebirch, which is a hand dyer in Portland, Oregon, who is actually, I don't think, dyeing right now, but, and this is the color Poppy. It's this really lovely, like reddish orange color. And it was $6 for 1 skein, and it's originally $25, 100% superwash merino. It's lovely. The only thing is, I don't know what to use it for. I usually try not to buy yarn without a plan for it, but I just could not leave this in the store. It's 490 yards, 3-ply fingering weight. So if you all have any suggestions for 1 skein wonder patterns, leave them for me down below. I don't think I want to do the ranunculus. I just think the lace pattern would be competing with the variegation of the yarn, and it wouldn't look as lovely as I want it to. I would actually really like to do a top with this, but I'm just not sure that I have enough yardage. I'm not really a tank person, so that's kind of off the table. So yeah, I don't know, maybe something striped. I feel like that would also deter from the beauty of this yarn. I could do a hat, but that just seems like not as fun. Like it wouldn't show off the glory of this as much as it needs to be, and same with socks. So if you have any thoughts about what to do with a skein of fingering weight yarn, let me know, because I need some inspiration for this guy. And then I have 2 more acquisitions. This is some, what I think is mohair that I got at a creative use reuse thrift store by my mom's house in California, and it's this like pinkish color. I think it's mohair or alpaca, and it's kind of like a, I don't know, it's not as fine as like a mohair silk, but it kind of reminds me of the weight of Drop's brushed alpaca. So I have no idea what the fiber content is, but I just thought the color was beautiful, and it actually matches really well with a color of bucilla tapestry wool that I used as one of the colors in this Colorwork sweater, my lupinous. But it's that same kind of like rosy pink. And I have about 150 yards of this, so I think I'm gonna hold it together with that for a hat. That's my current thought. But it's just so pretty and fuzzy, and I had to have it. So that cost me like $3 or something. And then my dear sweet mother, in all of her kindness and generosity, had a couple skeins of this mohair that she gave me. So this is the Sears 100% mohair. It's 1 ounce, so about 40 grams. I think it's about, I don't know, maybe 80 yards. And it's this kind of a similar thickness to that other yarn. It's not as thin as like a lace weight alpaca or silk mohair, but it's definitely a good size for a second strand. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna use this for either. Maybe a hat. I don't know. I have 3 balls of it. So if you have any thoughts on what I could use some of these things for, let me know, because I am undecided, but I'm just basking in it right now. So yeah. One more thing I wanted to show you was, so in my last episode, I had showed you that box of yarn that I got secondhand from Goodwill, and I had that fingering weight finish wool in like a yellowy neon color almost. And I decided to over dye it. So it was originally this kind of yellow color, and I over dyed it to get this mossy green color. I love green. So yeah, that's the color that we got to. My mom helped me with it, and we just used some Cushing's dye. We used a couple different colors. But that's the color difference. And my plan with this is to hold it with this mohair. This is the African Expressions Hope. I'm gonna swatch and see how it looks, but I'm planning to hold these two together and make the Spot Sweater by Ann Bensel, which is very pretty. It has like these triangle designs on it. So we'll see how these two colors mesh together. But that's my plan for this. So I just wanted to show you what the color turned out to be. So that is all that I have for you today. Thanks for being here. Thanks again for watching. I hope you're all having a happy new year, and I would love to hear what projects you are working on or looking forward to in the new year. Now that gift knitting season is over, what are you guys going to be working on? I'm really excited to see what other people are doing. If you have any suggestions for me, leave them in the comments down below. I am more than welcome, or more than open to hearing what patterns you all love and think I should do. And if you're interested in the sock pattern that I talked about earlier, let me know, because I'm trying to decide what to do about that. So thank you all again for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or night, wherever you may be. And I will see you in my next video in a few weeks.